Hi, and welcome to Filmmakers Compass Podcast, a show where we talk about movies and, well, more movies. I'm D-Man, joined by CP, and CP, for anybody that is only listening, I have to say, in the video podcast that we have, you look pretty fly in the shades you're rocking right now.
Well, I appreciate it. I just want to say Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, Happy New Year. Happy 2025. We made it.
Looking forward to a great year.
Yeah, another year of talking movies every week and using my AMC pass to try to go to the movies every week. I try my best, CP, but I don't always make it. So I'm always excited for movies. And then because I have the pass, every week there's new movies that come out. It's like I miss some of them.
Yeah, I know.
And we'll actually talk about that a little bit in our episode today about some of the movies that we missed in 2024. But before we get to that, hey, I wanted to acknowledge Auntie Phyllis and Uncle Ron got me this sweatshirt, the Morales family, for Christmas. If you're watching right now, I am sitting in between on my podcast set a poster of Star Wars A New Hope and a poster of Return of the Jedi. And they got me a sweatshirt that is Yoda, and it's The Empire Strikes Back. So it actually feels like it should just be my podcast sweatshirt because I'm right in between those two posters, and it lines
now
up
we have
perfectly.
The full trilogy on the screen.
Yeah, so thank you guys. This is like the perfect sweatshirt. That's pretty exciting. And CP, before we dive into our topics this week, I did want to do a couple shout outs.
Let's get into it.
All right, so first up, I have to give a shout out to Ivor. He was getting super festive and decided to send me a video of basically Home Alone with blood. So
What?
I was like, Ivor, I know you made your comment last time about CP and I being big Home Alone guys, and you were like, it's after my time. And I was kind of like, you're trying to ruin it for me? Like, it's funny because I always thought of especially those scenes, it's the Wet Bandits. When they do kind of go through the funhouse and they experience all that pain, it's done in almost like a Looney Tunes-esque sort of Wile E. Coyote way where, you're supposed to be laughing at it because they're bumbling idiots and nothing happens, especially in the first one, that you'd be like, oh my God, he should be dead. But by the time we get to the second one, I mean, they're leaning so hard into this that it's like they should be dead. Like, I think at one time he throws like an anvil or whatever over a staircase, hits them in the head, and then they fall onto their backs down like 2 stories into a basement.
Yeah.
Like, you might die. Or like, I forget which one. I think it's Harry. He goes upside down in a toilet full of gasoline or kerosene or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's literally like an explosion, and you're like, I mean, probably dead, I would think.
Yeah,
so
right.
I don't know. You sending me a video of them basically just getting demolished was an interesting take for Christmas. But I did enjoy it. I did watch it. I could totally see somebody on YouTube bringing the pain. CP, I think you saw this. Drucker shared how he would get festive, and that was by creating a Die Hard ornament of John McClane in the air.
Yes, I saw it. And Drucker, when you make one for yourself, make one for me as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I like that. Thank you for sharing it. Drucker, I don't know if you have a tree specifically where you would put that, but I could totally see you just putting it up to be like, festive. That would be cool. So, and then, okay. Actually, another thing was I had a little bit of trivia from Ivor. And CP, I know you already know the answer to this, but I'm going to throw it out to our listeners. He said, what do these Christmas movies have in common? The Long Kiss Goodnight, Lethal Weapon, The Last Boy Scout, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and Iron Man 3.
Ooh. So
Yeah.
excited.
Drum roll. They were all written by Shane Black.
Shane Black movies.
Yeah, apparently, if you could speak on this, CP, what is his deal with Christmas movies?
Well, Shane Black has just maintained the fact that he just loves Christmas. So he looks for any opportunity to include in any movie that he's working on. And he said that in multiple director's commentaries that he's done, that he's like, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I love Christmas movies. So why not put a little Christmas everywhere?
Well, I love it, Ivor, because we did do our trivia section in that episode. So I really appreciate you sending over some additional Christmas holiday trivia, which pretty cool. So, CP, Lisa commented regarding live streaming specials, which we talked about, I think, 2 episodes ago. As long as they aren't the same 5 movies that all stations play 700 times before Christmas, put some good ones out that don't get shown. And I can definitely appreciate that sentiment because as much as, we had so much fun talking about all these Christmas movies, there is like a staple set that it's like every channel wants to get, on their station. Cause it is like, hey, we listed them, we don't got to run down the holiday movies again.
Yeah,
but I kind of get the sentiment of like, hey, could we get some other ones streaming so that maybe by bringing in viewers for that kind of event setting, they might get to check out some new movies or some different movies. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. McFly Casual responded to whether A Christmas Story Christmas is a worthy sequel. And she said, my dad loved A Christmas Story and Christmas, so it really resonates with me. Plus, it is a good movie. So thank you.
All right, fair enough.
Glad your dad loved Christmas. So Zarina Elizabeth said of White Christmas on the big screen, agreed, speaking to CP going to see it and really enjoying it. Even things like facial expressions and reactions that I didn't notice, getting a chance to see it a little bit more up close and personal versus the normal television screen at home. So, and then finally, CP, we got to wish a big happy birthday to Jeff and Nick. Hope you guys are listening.
Happy birthday, guys.
Yeah, happy birthday. Hey, let's keep the good times rolling. Go Irish.
All right, let's get into our box office breakdown. Well, let's take a look back at the very end of 2024 and the final weekend of the year. So number 5 is a movie I know you love, D-Man,
Yep.
Moana 2.
Ooh, it's already in my top 5 all time. Movies that I haven't seen.
And we should probably see it. I don't think actually either one of us did, but it has made $900 million worldwide. So that is becoming quite the payday for our friends at Walt Disney.
I mean, it's definitely a movie where they were going to print money.
Oh yeah.
I think we predicted it would get to $1 billion. It looks like it might still worldwide. Quite impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Number 4, Wicked Part 1.
It has made more than Moana. I know it's got a week on it, but it's actually made more money. That's shocking to me.
Well, in the week, but overall, Moana has still made more.
Okay.
Wicked has only made about $650 million worldwide.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
that's what I would have predicted.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right
yeah,
where my math was mathing.
right, they're trickling down. Number 3, opening this past weekend. I have not seen it yet. I'm actually going to see it later this week, and I'm really looking forward to it. And that is Nosferatu.
I've heard really good things.
I have too. Now, for audiences that don't know this, the original Nosferatu, which is the German word for vampire, is considered by many to be like one of the first truly great horror movies from like the silent film era.
Yep.
This is a remake, and it has generated about $500 million worldwide. I've heard really good things about it. I've heard it's very dark and creepy, and unlike most of the vampire stuff we've seen over the past 2 decades, the vampire is a straight bad guy. So I'm really kind of looking forward to checking this one out.
No more Twilight vampires.
No more glowing, glittering vampires. Yeah, this is just bad vampires.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, I've seen good things, particularly on X. And I don't know if that's just because they have a really good social media manager and they've been able to push it into like the top trending topics. But I mean, people are talking about it. So
yeah, no, for
pretty
sure.
cool.
And filmmakers I know have seen it have really enjoyed it so far. Number 2, this was also number 2 last weekend in the box office, and that is Mufasa: The Lion King, the live action, not live action movie.
Yeah, I don't think we've talked about that one since our last episode, and it sounds like it debuted pretty good. Disney is like on fire right now. They're definitely making money. I haven't seen it, and I'm curious if you have, because I would take your recommendation. If you recommend I go see it in the theater, I might.
I have not seen it. And the weird thing is, I actually don't know anyone who has seen it, including my hardcore Disney friends. So I was a little surprised by that too. I don't really, because to some extent, this feels like one of those sequels that no one asked for.
Yeah, I totally
And
agree.
I know it's the last chance that we're going to get to hear, James Earl Jones as Mufasa, and that's kind of cool, but it seems odd. So I'm kind of in the same boat.
I know they did not predict necessarily that the live action Lion King remake or whatever would make as much money as it did, but I think it made over $1 billion. And they were like, God, if we could make another movie and it even made, probably a half of that, or
Yeah.
they're like, that's a win.
So this has made $342 million worldwide over 2 weeks. Obviously, it's gonna, easily
Pretty
break
good.
$500 million. So
Yeah, that's pretty good.
everyone's getting paid off that, but I don't know if it's as successful as they're hoping. And
Well,
part of that,
because I wonder is how much innovation and work went into creating the live action original version. So you have these lions, you have these environments, you have these things, and you're like, I mean, if we made another one and it did only make half, but we don't have to do all that upfront heavy lifting,
yeah, that's a good point. That's a good
then
point. It is.
you might be all right.
Yeah. Well, and part of the reason why apparently Mufasa is not doing as well in the box office as originally projected is because of this other movie called Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is
Wow.
number one in the box office. It has made less worldwide, only $210 million. Dollars. Critics love it, fans love it, and it's doing great domestically. So, have you seen Sonic 3?
I haven't seen Sonic 3. And you know what's interesting about that entire franchise is that it's like the perfect example of literally the fans reject that initial trailer for Sonic 1 just
Yep.
based on the character design.
Yep.
They come back, they're like, all right, listen, we hear you. Even though it's not realistic, you guys just want the classic Sonic design for the character that you love, and we will go back and basically redo it all,
Mm-hmm.
so you guys get what you want. But the point of that isn't to always cater to fans. The point is that when you have IP, I mean, fans could have just crushed that franchise right there if they stuck to their guns. Even if it was the exact same movie with just a simple other character design. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, they've totally leaned into it and fans have absolutely embraced that franchise. It's made so much money.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
I
And it
know.
plays, I mean, it's a great time to release it too. I think it's a great holiday flick while everybody's on holiday break.
Yep. It's a good movie you can see with your family. I have seen it and I love it. And it's incredible. So everyone should go see it.
Sonic 3. Wow.
Sonic 3. So that is the last weekend of the box office, but let's look at the year as a whole. So I
Okay.
think this is really interesting. When we look, and Deadline has a great article on it if you want to read into this at more explicit detail. When we look at the box office, who was the big winner? D Man, what's your guess?
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Well, yes, that's fair. But the big winner was Disney, Walt Disney
Again,
Studios.
they're
They
back.
they made $2.2 billion dollars at the box office this past year, and that's up 17% from last year. So they reworked some things, they came back and apparently did exactly what they're supposed to do as a big studio.
Yeah, they responded well. They also, I think in a weird way, particularly with Marvel, they really sort of scaled back. I think Deadpool and Wolverine was their only MCU movie this year.
It was.
And instead of having whatever it was, the last couple of years, they've had like what, three or four a year. They're doing bigger business this year by scaling back. That's, I think, what is impressive to me. Now,
Hmm.
Moana is an exception here. Again, like I said, I mean, that was like a license to print money. I don't think anybody, you're releasing that around the holiday season and you're like, hey, we're going to make roughly 1 billion right here. But
Hmm.
it's pretty good.
Well, and it's the exact same thing. And so when we look at Disney, their top three performing movies are all recognized IP. They are all sequels, and we've talked about them multiple times. Number one, Inside Out 2, which made $652 million domestically.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Number two, Deadpool and Wolverine, which made 636.7 million dollars domestically. And finally, Moana 2, which has made $403.9 million domestically. So, I mean, those three movies, just what on ticket sales in the United States, that's over $1.5 billion.
And what's cool about that too is if you actually think about that, you look at the tiles on like Disney Plus, that actually embodies three of their tiles.
Mm-hmm.
Disney, Walt Disney Animation, Pixar, and Marvel.
Yep.
So no Star Wars this year, and it doesn't seem like there will be even in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, they're leaning heavily into their IP, and as much as fans, continue to harp about sequelitis and even like comic book movie fatigue, people keep showing up for the sequels, for
Yep.
the IP.
That's what's making the money. So that's what they're going to keep making. So, do you know what studio is in the number two position for this past year?
I don't.
Universal.
Okay, it's a good year for them.
$1.9 billion. Dollars.
Holy cow.
Now
That
that's
is,
actually down from last year.
well, they were number one last
They
year,
were
right?
number one, right? They had some killer movies. The Mario movie. They also had the Academy Award winning Best Picture, Oppenheimer. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
they had a pretty good box office last year. So they didn't do quite as well. They also had a Fast and Furious movie. So, however, Their top three performing movies were Wicked, which made over $400 million domestically,
Nice.
Despicable Me 4, which made over $350 million, and a movie that I know you actually really enjoyed, Twisters.
Oh, so you know what's fascinating? Again, there's sort of a diverse lineup here.
Mhm.
They're leaning into some of their own classic IP with Twisters. Then they're mining Despicable Me for the,
Mhm.
200th time. And then you're going to, a live action version of sort of adapted material.
Yep.
So they're also, kind of venturing around a little bit. I know Disney's known for their animation, so Pixar and Walt Disney, but still pretty cool.
And number three, and we're not going to go through all the studios, but we'll end it here. Warner Brothers at $1.8 billion, and that is down 17% from last year because last year they happened to release Barbie.
Barbie. Yeah.
Their top three performing movies in this past year: Beetlejuice, which made close to $300 million domestically, Dune 2, which made close to $280 million domestically, and Godzilla versus Kong, which made close to $200 million domestically. So
Again,
there you go.
a little bit of a diverse lineup. This is very fascinating. Learning about the box office and what sort of performs and what doesn't. I like all that. That's fascinating. And I think, honestly, CP, I don't know what the budget was for that movie. Beetlejuice had to be one of the big winners, I would think, over the course of the entire year of everybody involved just like getting paid.
I think you're probably right. Another interesting thing is in the 9 movies that we listed, the only one, and I mean, it's technically an existing franchise, right? But it isn't an actual sequel, was Wicked.
Oh yeah, that's true. Huh?
Everything else that of those big winners are all sequels from recognized established movie
And
properties.
even Wicked is an adapted IP from, one of the most successful like
Yeah.
theatrical runs of all time. So
Yeah. So even that, it is, I mean, it's technically a prequel. It's an adaptation of a stage play, which is an adaptation of a
Right.
book, which is an adaptation of a movie. So yeah, but just think about that. So when we're saying we don't want sequels, Hollywood is hearing you want sequels.
I think we do. I mean, yeah, and then, I think even when we go down later, because we're going to take a look forward and, see what's coming out in 2025, even that, I think you and I fall right into that category of plenty of sequels in there. So, that's what gets people excited, and that's what gets people coming back to the theater. So big budget, tentpole blockbuster sequels. Boom.
There we go. So that's the box office.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that recap.
D-Man, I did something that I'm not proud of.
No.
And I'm going to share it with you and with our listening audience. This is something that I don't think anyone would have ever heard me say that I did willingly. I made a song.
Oh,
And
nice.
because I am not a songwriter, I used AI. I was inspired by you when you wrote your song before. So
I love it.
I wrote some lyrics. I sent it over to AI and had AI generate it. Yes, I'm going to be haunted by the ghost of John Connors tonight, and he's going to just wake me up and be like, "What the hell are you doing?" Giving
Fantastic.
in. But I made a song, and
Okay.
I would like to share it with you, and I would like to share it with our audience to celebrate all the great movies that we watched last year in 2024. Are you ready?
I am ready. So are you ready then?
I am ready. Are you ready?
Ooh, you got a banger here.
Blockbusters hit the screen, streaming dreams, unseen scenes. Doom Part 2, Deadpool 3, mutant claws, desert schemes.
Oh,
Inside Out 2, feelings flare, Moana's back with island air.
you're running through the whole 24 lineup.
Wicked soars in emerald light. Sequels, prequels, brand new tales. Streaming wars and ticket sales. Every genre, every style.
I love it.
Running wild, rewatch them all on screens that glowed. Big premiere, stories flowed.
Oh man, this is awesome.
Heroes rise, villains fall. It's our cause.
Dude, I could rock out to this song for real.
Posters spin, horizon calls. Jurors who break courtroom walls. Furiosa, Desert Queen. Reunion stirs the heartfelt scene. Challenger, silhouette one speeds. Venom's last dance fails.
Oh, Venom's in there. There you go.
Beetlejuice, Burton mates. And another planet's run by apes. Mystery
Oh,
action
that's awesome.
over screens. Indie gems and franchise dreams. Streaming now or at the show. Stories spark and grow. Rewatch them all on screens
That is so much fun.
Stories flow. 2024, the real won't pause. Heroes rise, villains fall. It's our cause.
Dude, this is like the build-up reminds me almost of like an 80s cartoon, and then it's like a rock band.
Bad boys back to ride or die. Quiet place pulls us in. Maxine is a tale of sin. Terror for 3 chills our spine. Conclave secrets intertwine. We watch them all on screens that glowed. Big premiere, stories flowed. 2024, the real won't pause. Heroes rise, villains fall. It's our cause.
Oh, that is just amazing.
Back for the next comeback.
Oh, CP, you are now a songwriter.
I know. Look at that.
That was amazing.
Well, so my inspiration was that Billy Joel song from the 80s, We Didn't Start the Fire.
Okay, I could almost hear like a 80s vibe to particularly the lyrics, like the lyrical rhyming. I was like, yeah, I can hear it. But then like, you know, when they get to the chorus and they just jam out, it reminds me of almost like an early 2000s like rock band.
Yeah. I just thought we saw a lot of good movies. We saw a few bad ones, but I thought that would be a very fitting ode to the past year of 2024.
Feels like you went and saw Y2K, and then you're like, oh man, I'm gonna wear the shades. I'm gonna go with the button down.
Yeah,
but
that's
open.
That's kind of what I did.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I did.
And then I'm a songwriter now.
I'm a songwriter, exactly.
Well,
So,
with
you
the
know.
help of AI.
Well, I mean, you didn't have to like emphasize that, but yeah, you know. I was gonna go text all my musician friends and be like, guess what I did, and now I can't really do that because you re-emphasize the fact that AI wrote my music.
I love making these songs though. It's so much fun.
Well, you
And they're pretty
inspired
cool.
me, and you did a poem, so I was like, you know what, I better bring my game to this podcast. So, audience, that's our song.
Dude, maybe we're gonna have to at some point record ourselves singing the lyrics.
You might have to do that.
That could be fun. I don't know. I'm not really a singer, although for anybody that's listened to my old podcast, I did do a couple of songs for Christmas every year, and I mean, I was horrible, but it happened. So who knows? Maybe we could sing some lyrics here.
Or maybe we'll just go find some of our friends with bands and have them record a version.
That would be cool too. That would actually be really cool. You show up with some lyrics and maybe like a couple riffs on the tracks, and it's like, hey, can you guys bang this out?
I know, that might be.
Well, CP, this is our end of the year episode, so we want to take a look backwards at 2024. I'm very excited because we're going to talk a little bit about what some of our favorite movies were, what were some disappointments, what did we miss, and what were some surprises. Should be pretty fun. And if you want, I mean, I can go ahead and kick us off then.
Yeah, go for it. Let's jump into it.
Okay. This was actually a movie that I didn't expect to like as much as I did.
So we're jumping into favorite movies.
Yes, favorite movies of 2024.
All right, let's do it. Okay.
Favorite movies of 2024. My number 3 is The Fall Guy.
Okay.
And I just did not expect to enjoy it. I thought it was so much fun. I thought the two leads really had good chemistry. It was just a good theater experience. And then I liked the homage to like the stuntmen. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And Steph did too. So it was one that we enjoy rewatching together. So
That's cool. That's
definitely of all the movies that have come out on streaming from 2024 so far, that's probably the movie I've like rewatched the most.
Really? Okay.
Number 2 on my list, you're going to hate this, and Drucker probably will too. It was one of the highest grossing movies of the year, and that's Beetlejuice.
I was not a fan. Sorry, man.
I actually really enjoyed it in a weird, quirky way. I think the same way that people fell in love with the original. I like that this time they set it at Halloween. It's probably a movie that I'll be watching every year around that time now. I just thought it was fun in like a contagious way that sometimes that's why you go to the movies. Like, it doesn't make sense objectively. Is it good? I don't even know, but I love it.
All right.
And then I'm assuming this will be your number 1, a blockbuster for the ages. And it was definitely, I guess as far as like tentpole blockbusters go, probably a cinematic masterpiece, but Dune Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
And
That
To
was
me, of recent years, you can put that up against Oppenheimer, Top Gun Maverick, some of these really, really great theater experiences. I mean, I saw it in IMAX CP, and when he, has to jump on the sandworm,
mhm.
I mean, my theater was shaking. It was
Oh, dude.
insane. Like, as an experience, it was just something that you can only get at the theater. We did. Just like I said, Top Gun Maverick was another one where it was like I was just blown back in my seat. I was like, "Whoa, this is a ride."
It was a real movie.
Now, CP, before we move on, I do have to clarify something.
Okay.
So, those were my favorite movies of 2024. But my favorite theater experience of 2024 was
Ooh.
going to see all 9 Star Wars movies on the big screen.
Yes. That was mine too.
I wanted to bring that back because that honestly might even be my favorite theater experience I've ever had. And to think that I would get it in 2024 is kind of wild, considering that even though theaters are probably better than they've ever been, I think we tend to think of like, what was your favorite theater experience? And you tend to get nostalgic.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm looking backwards. I'm like, oh, Jurassic Park, or, the first movie I saw in theater was like Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Even as late as The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I feel like often I'm looking backwards, and here we are in 2024. And I mean, to see Star Wars on the big screen again and get to share that with you and my wife, Steph, I mean, it was just so much fun.
So
and
awesome.
none of those movies are from 2024, but it was a great experience. Throw it over to you. What are your favorite movies from 2024?
Oh boy. So I'll just forewarn our audience, my list of favorite movies is oozing with bias. So number 3 for me was The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Wow,
That's just because I love Henry Cavill and I love Guy Ritchie. I also love Nazi killing. So that's kind of a
not to love.
trifecta.
I mean, wow, you went and saw so many movies, and I'm like,
know.
that number 3 for you, because all right, I think most of our listeners, they're probably like, how many times do you actually go to the theater this year? Maybe at max, like 10, probably once a month, 12.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how many times did CP go?
Oh, a lot.
A
Way more
lot.
than most people. And
So when he says that, that's like for real,
yeah, I probably went like 60 times, 60, 65 times easily.
right? Because you're going almost every week, right?
Almost. Sometimes I go 2 or 3 times a week. It's a sickness, everyone. It's a sickness.
This guy loves movies.
Number 2, also a product of my own bias, Sonic 3.
Wow.
I've said it many times.
Oh
I
my
love
God.
hedgehogs. I love
Oh my
Sega.
goodness.
So give me both. Totally enjoyed it. It was exactly what I wanted from a Sonic movie, which, we kind of had to perfection 2 times before. So it was great seeing it a 3rd time. And number 1 for me, Wicked.
Blow me away right there.
Dune Part 2.
Dude, I thought Dune Part 2 blew me back in my seat. It's Christian picking Wicked.
I've spent multiple hours on this podcast talking about my love for Dune Part 2, so I don't really need to elaborate anymore. When I think back, that was clearly the best movie that I saw this year. So
Awesome. Well, I mean, love that movie. I had a feeling it was going to be your number 1. So
now let's talk about our least favorite movies from the year.
Okay.
This is in some ways, I think, more exciting than talking about our favorite movies. Because while we did see some great movies, and I had to think a little bit about what my favorites were, my list of least favorites was very long
Interesting.
and very, very, very debated. To spare our audience and to keep this from being a 9-hour episode, I have 1 honorable mention and the 3 that were my least favorite movies. So
Okay.
my honorable mention, number 1, was Lisa Frankenstein.
I did not see it.
Oh, I saw it and I wanted to love it going in. It's like oozing in that old style, like 80s teen coming of age comedies. I love everything about that.
Yeah.
And I was so painfully disappointed. The movie was not as funny as I was led to believe based on the trailers. And I even heard some people say that they thought it was great, and it was so underwhelming. So that is my,
It's always a bummer,
yeah.
especially when you like want to get behind it.
Yeah.
Because there's other movies, and we might even talk about them right now, where it's like, this movie sucks, and you know what? Everybody got paid millions and millions of dollars to make it, and you're kind of like, well, then you got to take that criticism. But sometimes there's movies where it's like, I wish it was great, just because I want to support it.
Yeah, right. Number 3 for me. Oh boy, this is going to break the internet. Wicked. My 3rd least favorite movie.
I can't believe that made your least favorite. I mean, I'm shocked because obviously it made so much money. It resonates so much with its core fan base. And I don't know. I wouldn't think it'd be your bottom.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, when I do think more and more, there are a lot of really bad movies. Number 2 for me is a movie you actually loved, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
That was my number 2 favorite.
I know, that's like my second least favorite movie of the year.
There's Drucker. He's back.
And number 1, Megapolis. Oh boy.
You know what? I'm going to throw this out there, CP. I never ended up seeing Megalopolis because everybody
Don't.
said it was so bad. Even though I probably should have gone just for the sake of this podcast. I remember you had actually told me, you're like, you really don't need to.
No,
You were like, I wouldn't.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, there's movies that are bad because you're like, this was just a total miscast or just some circular writing or something that just doesn't, just falls flat. But I can't think of one thing in this movie that is redeeming in any way.
I know. Part of me feels like I should see it just on principle and out of respect for Francis Ford Coppola. Just,
Well, if you want to respect Francis Ford Coppola, I would recommend not seeing it.
I know. So looking back really quick though, like with Wicked, is it because of the singing, like the songs?
I
Like,
mean-
there was a controversy around, I think, the color grading. I mean, is it all of it combined? It just didn't work for you?
I think part of it is the fact that when you go see these movies that are so hyped,
Yeah.
where Universal literally spent hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm sure, promoting that. There are trains driving around with Wicked plastered
Yeah.
across them. There's billboards all
Skyscrapers.
over Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember being so unimpressed. It's one of those things where I'm like, look, if you're gonna, again, when we were in San Diego for Comic-Con, right, there was a lot of,
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine stuff. It was all over the city. But when we went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't remember feeling like, this was overhyped a bit.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is like, do you think it's because, like, is it just not your taste, but you could see why other people like it? Or is it you're like, no, it's not good?
Now, look, and I'll be honest, Lisa Frankenstein is not a good movie. Megapolis is not a good movie. I will acknowledge that I didn't like Wicked and Beetlejuice because of what I saw as storytelling failures or visual choices. Like those are on the basis of my opinion. Now, Lisa Frankenstein is bad. Right?
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was
Megapolis
curious about.
is
I was like,
bad.
'Cause
The other
I'd be-
two
I-
I just didn't like.
yeah, because I'm shocked. Like, I know obviously they were both two of the highest grossing films from the box office breakdown of 2024.
Mhm.
And I do know people that went and saw both
Love 'em.
Beetlejuice and Wicked and, loved it. I don't know. I was just a little shocked to see those that high on your list, but I guess it makes sense. So thank you for clarifying. Okay. So my least favorite movies of 2024, I finally got around to seeing Joker 2, or is it
Oh.
Joker Folie à Deux?
Folie à Deux.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I watched this on streaming. I didn't make it to the theater to see this. It finally came out on Max, and I gave it a shot. And I actually, it was kind of like a third of the way into it. I just turned it off and put on The Sopranos because I was like, that's about as much as I can do of that. Like, literally, the first part of the movie, the most interesting thing was the cartoon intro.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I don't know, it's just them like walking him around jail
Yeah.
for like 20 minutes. And I was like, all right, I know he's in jail. Like they honestly, to me, it felt like you could have literally, if they wanted to get to him in like singing class, they should just opened there.
Yeah, right.
Or like they just spend so much inordinate amount of time. Oh, he's so skinny, he's in jail. I'm like, unless he changed from the last one, then I just assume as much.
Yeah, right.
Like they finally get to the relationship with like him and Lady Gaga and it kind of works. But anyway, it just was a movie to me that it felt like it just dragged. I was like, where's this going? What do these songs contribute?
Yeah.
And even
yeah.
though there's some good cinematography and I think the performances are redeeming, I think they both really bring it. It's not like anybody's phoning it in here. I was like, what
So,
is the
Let
point?
me
of
ask you this, because now that you've seen it, did you feel Joker 2 was pretentious?
some of the like the idea of like turning like all the songs into like dance numbers and stuff a little bit.
Between like this like over the top cinematography, which is wasted on, as you said, a guy walking down the hallways of a jail,
Yeah.
of a prison, and these robust musical numbers targeting a
And they do
non-musical
look good. They do-
audience. Like
yeah.
it felt so pretentious to me, and I think that was the other failure within the movie. It's like, read the room. Who are the people that are going to see this?
Well,
Probably
and then
people that love Joker and the Batman.
Yeah, and I know it might
Not a
fall
bunch
in
of
line with
cinephiles.
like the Joker thematically. I won't spoil the ending for anybody that hasn't seen it yet or wants to stream it. It also felt like they sort of at the end just kind of like give the finger to everybody.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
like, hey, if you thought this is what you were going to get, it's not what you're going to get. And it seems like it might be, right, a bad joke. And
Yeah, right.
maybe that was part of it.
Yeah.
But either way, it's like, even if that's what you're doing, you're still giving the finger to people.
Yeah. I totally agree.
It's like I can understand why they wouldn't like it. So, number two on my list, and I know you did see this one as well, Madam Web. And this
Oh,
one's,
guy, that was bad.
I think this was universally, probably one of the least like movies of 2024. This one actually is in a lot of ways the opposite of Joker 2. It actually felt like everybody was kind of phoning it in. Nobody was really interested in seeing this be successful. The whole sort of Spider-Man verse and Sony, it was like they'd
Oh
already
my
given up
gosh.
on it. It just felt like a movie that it made it to production and they're like, well, we got to go to work. I don't care. And it showed.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember that the thing still that I remember the most from that movie was the complete lack of effort and charisma from Dakota Johnson. I was
It
like,
just didn't
you
feel like anybody believed in it.
you don't even like you're not even trying.
Because like, okay, let's go ahead and just juxtapose that with like Venom. At
Mhm.
least Tom Hardy brings it.
Yeah, and you
You know,
can tell he's enjoying it. He has a lot of personality shining through in every scene. And what no matter what you think about the movie, like you can't fault Tom Hardy as
yeah,
Eddie Brock. He's great.
right. Him in the relationship with Venom works.
Hmm.
Like that literally is what got them a trilogy.
Hmm.
His charisma, basically, he
Yeah.
carries the whole thing. If he didn't bring it, if he was phoning it in, I think everybody would be like, "This movie sucks," and how could you do this? And instead, everybody's like, "This movie kind of sucks, but it's also kind of fun."
Yeah.
That's why it works. So, and then number one for me, CP, my least favorite movie. Again, I did actually stream this. It's actually a movie that went straight to streaming. And even though that sounds bad, it's not. It was on Netflix. So, they have some. It's Rebel Moon Part 2.
Oh.
And you know what? Rebel Moon as a whole, as much as I was excited for it when the trailer dropped and, trying to give Zack Snyder, the benefit of the doubt, here's his sort of homage to Star Wars, and I'm a Star Wars guy. Look at the posters on the wall
Yeah.
and my
Yeah.
sweatshirt.
Yeah.
I think it's so disappointing for me because I actually really wanted to like it.
Well, I think part of my frustration with Rebel Moon was the fact that Rebel Moon Part 1 was not good.
It wasn't.
But we were under the impression, based on things Netflix were saying, Snyder was saying, the fact that Rebel Moon Part 1 was only a Part 1, that a lot of these complaints that we had were hopefully and optimistically going to be addressed in Part 2. And we just got more of the same failures as Part 1. So I get
Yeah.
it. It was such a disappointment.
Because I think we did a segment on this podcast a while back where I was, sort of like maybe if part two can just drop us into the action and get rid of this whole
Mhm.
backstory situation and like just let the story go. I don't know. I just was hoping that it would be redeeming. It wasn't. In general, they're just movies that I don't think I'll be rewatching. And that's a bummer to me, especially because I think I texted you this weekend and I was like, I just rewatched Man of Steel. And I was
Yeah.
like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And you'll kind of see I've been on a little bit of a Superman kick. Talking about the trailer last week, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go revisit the Snyderverse, and started with Man of Steel, and it was really good. I was like, okay, so what happened with Rebel Moon?
Yeah, I know. Such a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, even if you indulge your tendencies, you look at like Gladiator 2, does it live up to the original? It's like, no, it doesn't. But I mean, if you like the original, right? Kind of like if you like Star Wars, you would think you'd like this. And it's like, no, it just doesn't work. And that was a bummer. Like you said, I'm not a Zack Snyder hater. Well, actually, did you say that? I don't think you said that.
No, but I'm not a Zack Snyder hater. I wanted him to be successful with Rebel Moon and just didn't work. Just
Yeah,
didn't
you
work
did say
out.
that. On that note, then, let's get a little bit more optimistic here. Let's talk a little bit more about some surprising movies that we ran into in
Ooh,
2024.
okay, I like this. I like this.
So I want to give an honorable mention to a movie that didn't get a lot of love, but I thought was actually really interesting and had a couple really good performances, which is The Apprentice. You have Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump, and and then Jeremy Strong as I can't remember the guy's name, Roy Cohn, I think was his name.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It doesn't, dive into any sort of like political leanings or anything related to like Donald Trump and politics. It's going back to the 80s and him building like the real estate empire and doing all that. But it was kind of a fascinating look at the origin story of a guy that we all know, a guy that's going to be president, in probably like a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool look at some of the stuff that maybe I've never even really known about the man. I think my public knowledge of the Donald Trump persona came around with The Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
show, though, not
Yeah.
his time as the real estate mogul. And so that's a lot of the backstory that I guess I've never really actually even explored. Now, how accurate is this movie, or, how factual is the portrayal? I'm assuming it's coming with definitely some caveats there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I found the movie entertaining, and as a biopic, I thought it did lend to a different way of looking at something. And I think when you do biopics, that's what you sort of want to get at is there something there that maybe we didn't know? And that was
Yeah.
interesting.
I like that. Okay.
So number 3 is Surprising Movies of 2024, A Real Pain. So I don't know if you saw this movie.
Did not see it, but I wanted
Jesse
to.
Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. And
it
I
looked
actually
funny.
I thought their performances really shone through. It's a sort of a buddy road trip movie as they go honor their grandma who passed and her Jewish heritage in Europe, and they actually go visit. I think it's Auschwitz, but they go visit one of the concentration camps. But really, the movie shines with their dynamic, and I think they both give great performances. And there's a lot of nuance there. But I found myself really engaged with the movie. And
Cool. I like that.
I was very surprised. I did not believe that I would come away really liking it as much as I did.
I like that.
Number 2 is going to be Saturday Night.
Oh, I
know-
really enjoyed Saturday Night.
There's a real chaotic, sort of kinetic energy within the style this movie's being told, which it feels almost like a one shot. It's not, though. But like it just feels like it's happening continuously. And they do this by sort of clicking down a clock.
Yeah.
Randomly they'll sort of check in on what time it is, because basically it's counting down to when they have to go live, and then all the drama and things that happen sort of on a backstage production, and it really is like chaotic. And it's crazy because you think to yourself, you're like, there's probably no way all of this actually happened in like an hour's time.
Yeah.
Like some of it, like they end up like going to a bar, and you're like, I mean, if you only had 1 hour and you went to a bar, I feel like that would take up most of the time. But
your whole hour, yeah.
the fun of it though was like sort of following these characters. Everybody has egos. And then there's obviously, if you've ever watched Saturday Night Live, and we went back, Steph and I, and did actually go watch the original episode that aired sort of after this movie happened.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, dude. I really liked it. I thought it was a smart movie.
And the number 1 of the surprising movies was actually Superman, the Christopher Reeve story.
I cried so much during that movie. Not even gonna lie.
It's really it's a fascinating take. I mean, I've sort of had a peripheral of what his story was. I knew he was in an equestrian, a horse riding accident, and was paralyzed. And they actually do say specifically in the film that apparently he like severed his spine at about like the second vertebrae. So literally, like, I guess, they say it in the film, like his head was sort of disconnected.
Yeah.
And doctors reconnect it through surgery. Obviously it's a documentary biopic of Christopher Reeve. So you go backwards and you learn a little bit more about him and his, sort of coming up through theater, how he became Superman, his relationship with his father. But more than anything, it's the resilience of this man to try to overcome the paralysis, to find a cure. And I remember being just so inspired at the end when they actually show him before his passing. He was able to regain both feeling and some motion in his extremities, which is shocking and honestly made me feel like we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Like inspiring, because I was like, this movie makes me believe. And he passed away in 2004? I mean, we're already 20 years away from that. We haven't got there yet, but even looking back 20 years ago and looking at the progress that he was able to push through, I was like, we're going to get, I mean,
it's amazing everything that he did for spinal cord injuries and paralysis. And yeah, he really, used that to be such a driving force for good. It was incredible.
yeah. So love that movie. It was definitely interesting. So throw it over to you. Surprising movies.
Good choice. Okay. Honorable mention. This is a movie we talked about months ago when it first premiered, and that is Argyle. And as I think
Henry
I told you, it wasn't
Cavill.
necessarily good, wasn't necessarily bad. I just feel like, as most of you, we were sold a bag of lies. I was expecting a lot more Henry Cavill. I was expecting a lot more Dua Lipa, and well, I didn't really get a lot of either. That was a surprise, finding out that they're in it for like a combined 11 minutes of the movie. Or whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't it Henry Cavill was like his actual screen time was only like 10 minutes or
It was
something?
something insane. So
And he's the title character. I mean, and yeah, that's crazy.
so odd. That's my honorable mention. Now, unexpected. This first one is unexpectedly bad. And that was the movie Y2K. Now, you guys know me. You
Just
know
came
my
out.
obsession with the 90s. You know I like smart, good horror films. When I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, CP, there is no reason that you are not going to enjoy this movie. And well, there was a reason. And it's
There
just
wa-
called, it's really three. Bad directing, bad writing, and bad acting. Yeah, those are the three reasons. Now,
Okay.
as I have maintained, and as I told you in my review, go watch the first 35 minutes of the movie. It's wildly entertaining and nostalgic, but then just drop it. Once the
Okay.
plot actually kicks into gear, it's terrible.
Damn it.
Yeah, such a bummer. Number 2, this is a surprisingly good.
Okay.
And that was the movie Alien Romulus.
Ooh, totally agree with you. Yeah.
Now, the Alien movies after Aliens have really kind of just been on a downward trajectory. Everyone is kind of worse than the previous. You know, I didn't really like the Prometheus, Alien Covenant movies. So I was very skeptical of this. When I saw, when this was revealed, we've talked about it a couple times. It had potential to be great, but we were kind of expecting it to
Fall into almost like that Doom old school, like 2000s, like, oh, is it just going to be like a first person shooter eventually?
Yeah. I remember walking out of this and being like, yes, Disney, Fox, you got this right. This is what we wanted as fans. So I enjoyed it. And number 1, a movie that I thought was surprisingly great that I thought I was going to hate at the trailer based on the trailers. And that was Transformers 1.
Another great pick. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be, one of those made for kids cartoons based on the trailer. And it was made for all us old people that love Transformers. So I thought it was a great one.
Yeah, I thought the animation was good. It was very colorful. I actually enjoyed the story. I thought the heart of that movie is sort of the friendship and then fracture dynamic of Optimus and Megatron.
Yep.
So I thought that was really good. And then, the movie itself sort of goes back. It's Transformers 1. So you're looking at a little bit of an origin story here.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you're a fan of the franchise, there's lots of Easter eggs. There's lots of things to like. And I thought the voice acting was pretty good too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. So, movies that we missed last year, D-Man, and I'll start this one off. Okay. I don't need to talk too much about them because we didn't see them. Honorable mention for me, there was a limited release horror movie called I Saw the TV Glow that I heard was kind of smart and trippy and very creative, so I wanted to see it. Did not get a chance.
That one, I don't even know if I saw a trailer for that.
You should look it up. It has a cool vibe, I think.
Okay.
3, Boy Kills World.
I did hear good things about this. I like Boy Meets World.
I don't know that they're the same. This was another one that wasn't, I think it had like a week or 2 week run only, and I just wasn't able to get in to see it. Number 2 for me, Fly Me to the Moon.
I feel like that should have just gone to streaming.
It seems like it should have, and it didn't last very long. I've heard people tell me it was actually pretty good, but the reason why I'll put it on my list is it's got Scarlett Johansson, so that's worth watching.
Some movies, I don't know. Like, it just, to me, you're thinking that came out like in the summer, and you're going to put that up against, Deadpool and Wolverine's out there. You got other summer blockbusters, and I was like, if people have a choice on what movie they're going to go to the theater to see, especially if they don't have the AMC or like, one of those passes, I was like, that you're making it a pretty easy choice.
And number 1, now I don't even know if you've ever heard of this.
I have not.
Hundreds of Beavers.
Nope. I don't know what that is.
I've heard it was an indie
I wanted
film.
to surprise you and say I had, but I haven't.
It was an indie film, very creatively done. It incorporates lots of different animation cinematic styles. And it is about a hunter up in the north who has to square off against hundreds of beavers. And I have heard that it is just kind of one of those brilliant movies made for a tight budget, minimal everything, and what they managed to pull off, people say, is just creative and genius. And I really want to check it out. So if anyone's seen
maybe I'll check it out
I've heard
too.
Great stuff from some of my hardcore cinephile friends. They're like, it's totally worth watching. So that's my number 1.
Okay. Well, my number 3 is actually a movie we already discussed, and I have it on my list, just like I said, basically out of respect for Francis Ford Coppola, and that's Megalopolis. It was one of, I think if you go back to the episode last year where we talked about looking forward to 2024, that was on my list of my most anticipated movies. Essentially, like I said, I missed it simply because bad reviews.
Yeah.
Word of mouth got to me. There was not a sense of urgency for me to get to the theater to go see it. And then as time passed, it got pulled pretty quick. Didn't do well in the theater. Part of me is like, I feel like I should, just out of, sheer respect for a great filmmaker, Number 2, you're not going to like this pick either, but I wanted to see it on the big screen and not catch it on streaming, but that's Wicked. So it is a movie I'm going to see. I know it's coming out. I think it's already out on streaming, but you have to pay like the $20 or whatever to buy it. it. But I was interested in seeing it in the theater because a lot of people told me it's kind of a theater experience movie.
Yeah, it's very cinematic.
They didn't think it would play as well if you're just watching it at home. I might even still try to catch it if I can.
Okay.
And then number one, you're gonna love this pick. It's based on your recommendation.
Ooh, I always
I
like to
made
hear
this
that.
change mid podcast
Ooh.
once I got your picks. But number one, I missed Ministry of Ungentlemanly
Ooh.
Warfare.
Well,
And you recommended it, and so now I'm like, I probably should check that one out.
well, I mean, I think so, but I told you the reasons why I liked it, so you may definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, I think so. So that's definitely, I'll probably watch that one on my own. I'll probably stream that for sure. Well, before we head out, CP, we did want to talk a little bit about looking forward to 2025.
Ooh, there's some good ones coming out, man.
Yeah, we want to see what all is coming out, and we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of them. And again, like we mentioned at the top of the show, sequelitis right here. You know, we're leaning into some IP.
Just a little bit.
But there are a lot of movies coming out. So we'll talk a little bit more about what the lineup looks like after we talk about the movies we're most looking forward to. But number 3 on my list, it's just a franchise that I've loved. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but Jurassic Park. They're coming out with Jurassic World Rebirth. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they want to do with this franchise. Because, I mean, I feel like with the last movie, they tapped out all the nostalgia, right? They brought back the entire original cast. They got everybody together. They did that whole, like, the gang's back together. Wasn't great. They also just ended up back on an island. I don't know. I'm curious to see, you know, they're calling it Rebirth. You know, are they going to do sort of anything new or innovative with dinosaurs and this franchise? I don't know. I'm interested to see. We don't have a trailer yet. I don't know at all really what the story's going to be, but I do love Jurassic Park. I like dinosaurs.
I mean, hey,
So-
makes it worthwhile to me.
Number 2 on my list, you know, I'm looking forward to Captain America Brave New World. Now, the reason for that is I'm really hoping that it'll sort of reinvigorate my love for Marvel's MCU
Okay.
and get me back in. I like the sort of more grounded, down to earth, sort of spy thriller-esque feeling of the trailer. So I'm looking forward to that. Red Hulk, maybe. We'll have to see how that goes. I know they recast Thaddeus Ross. But in general, I'm just hoping that it, you know, it's been a while since like the MCU has really had me forward thinking. Even Deadpool and Wolverine, as much as that movie was fun, I mean, it's backwards looking at
Yeah,
the 20th
true.
Century Fox. And so it being the only MCU movie we got in 2024, you know, it's been a while since we've had anything that really got me pumped about the future of the MCU. Quantumania, it was all right. And then the
Yeah.
whole Kang, you know, recasting and all that, you know, the most excited I've been, honestly, was when you and I went to Comic-Con.
Yeah, right.
So that was a blast, and Deadpool and Wolverine was releasing that weekend, and then there were all the announcements. So like I was excited for Marvel, but it's been a while since I've seen a movie that made me feel excited. So I'm hoping
All right.
this is
All
the
right.
one. And then CP, I know you're gonna love this pick.
Ooh, all right.
Number 1 movie I'm looking forward to is Superman.
You would say that.
The
Okay.
trailer just dropped. We
Okay.
watched it
Okay.
and discussed it on the podcast last week. I think there's a lot of potential there. I know you and I have talked many times about waiting for sort of Superman's The Dark Knight. When will we get that? Will this be that movie? I don't know, but will it
Yeah.
lay the groundwork for them to
Ooh,
deliver that
okay.
movie?
That's
You
interesting.
know, is this maybe Batman Begins for Superman, where it's like, you know, can we really lay the foundation?
Yeah.
And I feel like if they can knock this out of the park, I would be very excited to see, you know, a Superman movie that just knocks my socks off. And if it's this one, all the better.
Love it.
There you go.
All right. Movies I'm looking forward to in 2025. Well, my honorable mention is Tron Ares.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And that's more the fact that it's been like 15 years since like Tron Legacy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a span of time for a sequel. So I'm really just curious to see what they do with new technology, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, and this sounds bad to say, but I feel like Disney like built a Tron roller coaster and they're like, well,
We got to make a movie about it.
we got to make a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, do you?
I feel like they don't know what they're doing. So I'm interested to see what we're going to get with this one.
And is this supposed to be like a direct sequel to Tron Legacy, or is it like a reboot?
I have no idea, to be honest. I know
Because at
very
like
little about it.
D23 or whatever, they just put up they didn't really show like a trailer, I don't think.
We don't
So I
really know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, number 3 on my list, Avatar Fire and Ash. That's just because James Cameron keeps, you know, bringing it with those movies.
Yeah, I mean, he's very passionate about the Avatar world, Pandora, and sort of, I know he has like a vision for like 6 or 7 of these movies. I'm still blown away by the box office performance of Way of Water.
Oh, me too. Yeah, right.
Like,
Insane.
I remember going and like, I enjoyed the movie it felt like the theater was, not packed, but like it was full. But
Mhm.
I was like, of all, like you look at the performance of like Dune this year, or even Wicked, and I was like, Avatar, the sequel to a movie that came out like, over 10 years ago,
Yep.
and it made that much money. I'm like, I don't even know enough people that I can say would give me confidence that that would ever get there in the box
Yeah,
office.
right. I don't know. It's crazy. I'm curious to see how they keep pushing that forward. Now, what I'm really excited about, number 2, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I
Great pick.
don't think that the 7th Mission Impossible movie quite performed as people expected, but it's only half the story. It's been an incredible franchise, and Tom Cruise has always brought it in every one of those movies. I'm going to be a little sad that this is the last one.
Yeah, I
So-
know. I think they did it right in the sense that so this is the capper for the Mission Impossible franchise. I'm assuming there will be the direct ties that line up with the previous movie.
I think so too.
But I also think they're gonna make it so that it's fairly standalone and probably pays out for the franchise as a whole versus like the whole Horizon thing where they split it, and it's like it's so dependent on having seen part 1 to even go see part 2 that if part 1 does poorly, you're almost like, can we even release part 2? Like, did enough people even go? I think when you split it like that and it doesn't stand alone, you run into a big problem. And so I hope with Mission Impossible, I went and saw the part 1, and it was really, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
There were lots of homages in that looking backwards, and it was really cool. So I want to see how that actual story ends. But at the same time, yeah, I think they're going to do this one right.
I think so too. Number 1 for me, Paddington in Peru.
Wow, that is a shocker.
Now, I have told everybody how much I love those Paddington movies, and I'm thrilled we're getting a third one.
Well, I know on IMDb, is it IMDb?
Yeah.
Like Paddington 2 is like one of the highest rated movies of all time.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that was part in like, I actually remember seeing a review in the year Paddington 2 came out. A very serious critic wrote like Paddington 2 should be considered for Best Picture because it was by far the best movie of the year. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And that's what inspired me to go and watch both the Paddington movies. And I was like, wow, these kids movies were really freaking good. So I'm excited about Paddington 3.
I guess if you haven't seen Paddington, give that a watch. But I mean, other movies that are coming out, there's a Minecraft movie, Thunderbolts, How to Train Your Dragon, Fantastic Four,
Yep.
Wolfman. I don't know. You know anything else coming out?
But I'm still shocked by the fact that you listed that you want to see Superman and I did not.
I know
If
that
I was
actually.
a betting man, I would have been like, nope. CP's saying looking forward to Superman and D-Man is not.
Well, I mean, you're the Superman guy. That's what's so crazy
know.
is they've somehow, I don't know, been able to not make you excited, which is crazy. There's also, I think, Happy Gilmore 2's coming out. They just dropped that trailer over the holiday break. I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. It's another legacy sequel. We've talked about this.
And it's so long after the fact.
CP, did you know there's a movie called The Running Man?
Yeah, I was wondering if it was a remake of the Arnold movie.
I think it is. Yeah, I'm going through the list. I think there's like a live action Lilo and Stitch,
Yeah, I saw that, which seems bizarre because
live action Snow White. I mean, this is basically just like a rundown of D23. But Zootopia 2, Wicked Part 2 is supposed to come out, I think, around Thanksgiving next year.
Yes,
So they're
yes.
paying that out. I think that's the major
but we're
one.
not getting the Batman 2.
Not this year.
Another
I mean, I'm
year.
excited for it after the Penguin, though. It really reinvigorated. Maybe that's something we'll talk about at some point on this show. Dive into the Penguin a little bit because that was a lot of fun. For anybody that got a chance to watch that, let us know what you thought about the Penguin.
Definitely.
To our listeners, what are the movies that you're most looking forward to in 2025? As well, looking backwards at those different categories that we sort of ran down. What were some of your favorite movies or least favorite movies, surprising, or movies that you're probably going to check out once they hit streaming? And let us know what your lists are because, we love reading them and always makes for good discussion. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. CP, I know this is our New Year's episode, so we wanted to do a toast.
Little toast. So, hey,
Yeah.
if you're in the car, maybe like pause the episode, hit a drive through, and then get back so you can toast with us. Don't drink any alcohol if you're driving, but
I just got Coca-Cola.
raise your glasses, everyone. Here we go. To surviving 2024 and staying alive in 2025, wishing you a year of good health, greater wealth, selecting some new friends, reconnecting with some old friends, and watching many, many, many great movies to come. D-Man?
Hey, cheers. Cheers to all of our listeners. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. We love that we can talk movies all the time and that you guys love doing that with us. So thank you all. And yeah, cheers to 2025. Hope you all have a great year. Be sure to follow the podcast at filmmakerscompass.com, where we have a feed of all of our previous episodes, as well as all of our links to our social media at Film Comp Podcast or at Film Comp Pod. You can follow me at Big Kid D-Man. CP, thank you again for that toast. It was fantastic. And Happy New Year's, man.
You can follow me at NDCal5. We will see you back here next week. And until then, keep watching movies.